All right, let's get into this. This is one of those stories that, on the surface, seems like just another drop in the ocean of celebrity drama. But when you actually stop and look at what's being said, what's being admitted, it's something else entirely. We're about to break down a moment that I think is going to change how a lot of people see one of the most powerful families in the world and one of the most controversial artists of our time. This isn't just about a fight. This is about a confession. So picture this. The cameras are rolling. It's for a new documentary about Kanye West, or Ye, as he goes by now. The film is called In Whose Name, and right away that title tells you this is going to be about identity, about control, about narrative. And who is the master of narrative, the queen of controlling the story? Kris Jenner. And she's sitting right across from him. The tension is so thick, you could cut it with a knife. This isn't a scene from Keeping Up with the Kardashians. There are no producers whispering in their ears, no pre-planned story arcs. This feels raw, real, and incredibly uncomfortable. And it all centers around one of the darkest periods in Kanye's public life. Ye looks at his then mother-in-law, the woman who architected the fame of his entire family, and he says something absolutely chilling. He says, "I would rather be dead than to be on medication." Just let that sink in for a second. This isn't some throwaway line. This is a man screaming about his own pain, his own struggle with his mental health treatment. He's essentially saying he felt the treatment was a fate worse than death. That's a powerful, terrifying statement. And it immediately raises the question, why? What was so bad about the help he was getting that he felt this way? This one line opens up a Pandora's box of questions about mental health, the pressures of fame, and what really goes on behind the gilded gates of Calabasas. And he doesn't stop there. He immediately follows it up by pointing the finger, not just at the world, but at the people in that room, his family. He says, "No one from the family has taken any responsibility for my hospital visit, but if you go online, that's 50% of what people say, at least. Am I lying?" Whoa, he's calling them out directly. He's talking about his emergency hospitalization back in November 2016. You all remember that, right? It was huge news. He was in the middle of his St. Pablo tour, this massive, critically acclaimed tour with the floating stage. It was iconic. And then suddenly it all came crashing down. Concerts were canceled, and the next thing we know, he's in the hospital for a psychiatric emergency. At the time, the narrative was spun in a million different directions. Exhaustion, dehydration, stress. But Kanye is saying right here on camera that what the public was speculating about, the family's involvement, the immense pressure, had truth to it. And he feels like nobody in that family has ever owned up to their part in it. He's not just talking to Kris, he's putting the entire Kardashian-Jenner dynasty on notice. He's asking, am I lying? It's a challenge. He's daring her to deny the public perception, to deny what he clearly feels is the truth. And it puts Kris Jenner in an impossible position. How do you answer that when the cameras are on you and the man who was at the center of that storm is looking you dead in the eye, demanding accountability? This is the moment where the entire dynamic could shift. You expect a denial, a deflection, a classic PR spin, right? That's the Kris Jenner playbook. Control the message, protect the brand. And that's what she tries to do at first. Her immediate response is just stunning in its simplicity and honestly in its coldness. She replies, "It doesn't matter." What? It doesn't matter? A man is telling you he would rather be dead than on medication, that he felt his family was responsible for his breakdown, and your response is, "It doesn't matter?" That is an absolutely wild thing to say. It feels like a complete shutdown, a total dismissal of his pain. You can almost see the walls go up. This is the momager talking, not the mother-in-law, the person whose job it is to make problems go away. But Kanye isn't having it. He's not going to let her brush this aside. This is clearly something that has been eating him alive for years. He immediately fires back, his voice rising, the frustration palpable. He's fighting to be heard, fighting to have his experience validated. For him, this is everything. It's the core of his trauma. It's not just some internet rumor, it's his lived reality. He's refusing to minimize what he went through. And in that moment, you realize this isn't a conversation, it's a confrontation that has been brewing for a very, very long time. Seeing that her initial tactic failed, Kris tries to pivot. She tries to reframe her words. She says, "It matters to us and you. It doesn't matter what the internet says. It matters what we think." Okay, on the surface, that sounds better, right? It's the classic circle the wagons, family mentality. She's trying to say, forget the public noise, let's focus on us, the family. But is that really what she means? Or is it more of a sophisticated way of saying, let's keep this in-house, let's control the story before it gets out? Because for the Kardashians, what the internet says is all that matters. Their entire empire is built on public perception. So for her to claim it doesn't matter feels, well, disingenuous, to say the least. It's a clever line, designed to sound supportive while still trying to manage the situation and shut down the public-facing part of the conversation. But Kanye sees right through it. He's not interested in her distinction between public and private. He wants to talk about the root cause. He takes her statement, "It matters what we think," and he turns it right back on her with a question that is so direct, so pointed, that there's no escape. He looks at her and asks, "So what do you think? Did you have an effect on my mental health?" Boom! There it is. The million-dollar question, the question that cuts through all the PR, all the reality show storylines, all the drama. He's asking the matriarch of the family, the woman who pulls all the strings, if she believes she played a role in his psychological distress. This is the point of no return. She can't deflect anymore. She can't change the subject. She has to answer. And what she says next is without a doubt one of the most shocking admissions I have ever heard out of her mouth. You're expecting a no, or an "of course not," or "how could you say that?" You're expecting her to defend herself, to defend her family. Instead, the reality star looks at him, and without hesitation, she answers, "Yes." She just says yes. She continues, "I'm saying yes, and I love you. I don't want you to be not perfect." Let's just pause and dissect that, because it is loaded with meaning. First, the simple yes. It's an admission of guilt, an admission of influence. She is admitting on camera that she believes she had an effect on her son-in-law's mental health. That alone is a bombshell that dismantles years of carefully constructed family image. It's a crack in the facade. For years, the family has presented this united front, and here the leader is admitting they were part of the problem. But then look at the justification she gives. "I love you, and I want my daughter to love you the way you want her to love you." This is a masterclass in manipulation, whether she intends it to be or not. She's connecting his mental health struggles directly to his marital problems. She's subtly shifting the blame. It's like she's saying, "Yes, I had an effect, but it was all in service of trying to make your marriage work, trying to make you the man my daughter wanted you to be." It frames her influence as a well-intentioned, if perhaps misguided attempt to save their relationship. It also puts Kanye in a box. How can he be angry at her for admitting she had an effect on his mental health when she immediately frames it as an act of love for him and her daughter? It's a brilliant, if perhaps ruthless move. She takes accountability with one hand and snatches it away with the other. She validates his pain and then immediately uses it as leverage, connecting it to his deepest desire at the time, Kim's love. It's complex, it's messy, and it's utterly captivating. You're watching a chess match play out in real time, and the stakes are years of pain, love, and resentment. The clip, as described in the article, seems to end there, leaving us with this bombshell confession hanging in the air. The fact that E! News reached out to her rep for comment and hadn't heard back is standard procedure, but it's also telling.
What could they possibly say? How do you spin a direct on-camera admission like that? There's no taken out of context here. The words are clear. Did you have an effect on my mental health? Yes. This scene is so much more than just a family argument. It's a microcosm of the entire celebrity ecosystem. It's about the commodification of a person's life, even their pain. Kanye has always been an open book. For better or worse, he shared his bipolar diagnosis in 2018. He's rapped about it, tweeted about it, talked about it in interviews. He has put his mental struggle at the forefront of his art and his public persona. The Kardashians, on the other hand, curate their reality. They decide what the public gets to see. Their struggles are packaged into neat, season-long story arcs that are resolved by the finale. What this documentary scene represents is a clash of those two worlds. Kanye's raw, unfiltered truth crashing headfirst into Kris's perfectly produced reality. And for once, it seems like the raw truth won. He forced a moment of genuine, unscripted honesty. And that honesty is devastating. It paints a picture of a man who felt so cornered, so controlled,